Am I audible to all of you? Just write in the chat box. Okay. So let's start today's class. I am sharing my today's presentation slides with you. Just a minute. So today we are going to start Unit 2 as Unit 1 is already completed in the last class. So today we are going to start Unit 2. So basically the Unit 2 is divided into two major parts. So first part is demand analysis and the second part is supply analysis. So today we are going to start demand analysis. So moving to the next slide. Now first we will discuss the definition of demand. So basically the demand is an economic principle referring to a consumer's desire and willingness to pay a price for a specific good or service. So basically the demand belongs from the consumer, and whatever is demanded by the consumer must pay the price of that good or services, whatever the consumer demands. So basically demand is an economic principle referring to a consumer desire and willingness to pay a price for a specific good or services. As in the definition, refer the word specific. So whatever the specific demand has been given by the consumer must pay the price of that demand. The second point is it's the underlying force that drives economic growth and expansion. Without demand, no business would ever bother producing anything. Uh, Without any demand, there will be nothing will be produced, and nothing will be supplied. So demand is very important in order to uh, in the context of economic growth. So whatever the thing or whatever the items has been demanded more, so the supply of that things will be more, and that things will be more in the market. So this is the definition of the demand. So moving to the next slide. Now the next topic is types of demand. So there are basically these are the major types of demand. So these are basically the 8 categories of demand. So uh, basically these are like that: individual demand and market demand, total market demand, and market segment demand. These are the 8 categories of demand. So moving to the next slide, because it is very difficult to understand from this slide, so I am also make the diagram of these types of demand in the next slide. So from here you can easily understand. So what are the types of demand? So basically the types of demand are basically categorized into 8 major categories. Although there are more categories than this, but these are the major categories of types of demand. So first is individual demand and market demand. Second is total market demand and market segment demand. Third is derived demand and direct demand. Fourth is industry demand and company demand. Fifth is short run demand and long run demand. Sixth is price demand. Seventh is income demand, and eighth is cross demand. So these are the major categories of demand. So let us discuss each of these demands one by one. So moving to the next slide. So first is individual demand and market demand. So the individual demand refers to the demands for goods and services the single consumer. As the word individual is there, so basically these demands of goods and services are made by the single consumer. Then the market demand is the demand for a product by all the consumers who buy that product. So suppose a particular product is there, then the market demand includes all the consumers who buy that product. So basically, the market demand is the aggregate of the individual demands. So just remember these definitions. Although these are simple definitions, but you need to just remember that what do you mean by individual demand, what do you mean by market demand, and this is the important sentence, that market demand is the aggregate of the individual demand. So all of you understand it. Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Okay. So moving to the next slide. Let's see how many participants are there. Okay. So moving to the next slide. Now the second type or the second category of types of demand is total market demand and market segment demand. So the total market demand refers to the aggregate demand for a product by all the consumers in the market who purchases a specific kind of a product. So here a specific product has been aggregated from all the consumers in the market. So this concludes the total market demand of that particular product from the market, which has been demanded by all the consumers from a particular market. So the next definition is this aggregate demand can be subdivided into the segments on the basis of, so these are the subdivisions on which we can divide the demand on. The categories are geographical area, price sensitivity, consumer size, age, gender, etc. So are called as the market segment demand. Suppose a particular item is there, and based on these subcategories, the demand of that item has been given by the consumers. So it depends, the demand of that item is dependent on the geographical area of that uh, state or city, then the price sensitivity, whether it belongs to the rural area or the urban area, then the customer size. Basically the customer size has been means that if within a particular city, the demand of that item has been like in the numbers of hundreds, or the demand of that or in the other city, the demand of uh, that item has been in the thousands range, and the particular age of the consumer who demanded that product or the item, and the gender, whether it is that the item has been demanded by females or males. So these are the important criteria on which a demand of that item has been referred or demanded by the particular consumers. So the second category of demand is total market demand and market segment demand. So based on these segments, we define the definition of market segment demand. So moving to the next slide. Just remember these names, and the definitions of these are slightly different from each other. So moving to the next slide. The third category is derived demand and direct demand. So when the demand for a product oblique outcome is associated with the demand for another product oblique outcome, so is called as the demand or induced demand. So here basically a particular product demand is associated with the demand of other products demand. So that type of demand is considered as the derived demand or induced demand. For example, the demand for cotton yarn is derived from the demand for cotton clothes. So basically, if the cotton clothes are demanded more, then the cotton yarn has been demanded more. So just the demand of cotton yarn is been dependent on the demand of cotton clothes. So this is the example of derived demand. So next comes the definition of direct demand. So the demand for the product oblique outcome is independent of the demand for another product oblique outcome. So that type of demand is called as the direct demand or autonomous demand. So, in the above example of cotton yarn, so the demand for cotton cloth is autonomous. So basically, as the cotton cloth, basically that the demand of cotton cloth is autonomous. But once you know that the cotton cloth is made from cotton yarn, so basically the cotton yarn demand is also more. But basically, the direct demand is basically not for the cotton yarn. The direct demand is basically for the cotton cloth. So these are some just the slight difference between the derived demand and the direct demand. So all of you understand till now? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Okay. So moving to the next slide. The next category of demand is industry demand and company demand. So basically the industry demand refers to the total aggregate demand for the products of a particular industry. For example, demand for cement in the construction industry. So basically, the this type of demand is basically for the particular industry. So here the example is given that the demand for cement is basically for the construction industry. So such type of demands is basically prone to industry. So they are called as the industry demand. The next type of demand is company demand. So the company demand is a demand for the product which is particular to the company and is a part of that industry. So basically, as you know that there are many private companies or there are many products which are named with the proprietary product which are been patented by that company, a particular company. So if that product is been demanded, then just for example that here it is given to you that demand for tires manufactured by MRF. So MRF company is making a particular type of tires. So the if you if you demanded the MRF tires, then that type of demand is basically that company demand is considered to be the company demand because you are demanded the MRF tire and not of any type of tire or from any of the company. You are just demanded the particular company item. So such type of demand are considered as the company demand. So thus the company demand can be expressed as the percentage of the industry demand. But as you know that the if you demanded the MRF tire, then it also belongs to the tire industry or the automobile industry. So basically the company demand can be expressed in the as the percentage of the industry demand because it belongs to the automobile industry, and that means that the company demand is basically the subset of the industry demand. So these are the definitions of industry demand and company demand. So moving to the next slide. Now, the next type of demands are short run demand and long run demand. So, the short run demand is more elastic, which means that the changes in price or income are reflected immediately on the quantity demanded. So, suppose an item is there, and if its price is abruptly increases, then uh, then there is a short run demand of that item, because the price is increases abruptly, so its demand is low. So the short run demand is more elastic. So it means if the price is changed or income are reflected, then the quantity, then it actually reflects in the quantity of that demanded item. Now going to the long run demand is inelastic, which shows that the demand for the commodity exists as a result of adjustments following changes in pricing, promotional strategies, consumption patterns, etc. So basically the long run demand is basically deals with these parameters, like the changes in pricing. If you increase the price, then the demand is low. Then the promotional strategies, sometimes you know that there are some offers are been given for the items in order to promote that item, in order to promote that item in the long run. So that is been based on the long run demand, in order to generate the long run demand for that item. Then the consumption pattern, you know that there has been analysis has been done for certain items in order to make the strategy. So how that item has been run, or how that previous item which belongs to that category, what are the advantages, or what are the you know that what are the some limitations of that item. So they are trying to resolve the limitations, and in order to make it more uh, the item has been much more suitable in the long run. So these are the some of the categories of demand. One is the short run demand, and other is the long run demand. So basically, all of you know that the company wants that their item must be run in a long run demand, and always the demand of that item um, has been wanted by the consumers more and more. So these are some of the strategies which are adopted by the companies. They are been analyzing the item, and they are being just survey the consumers whether they are interested, or whether they have any issues related with that item or not, and based on their feedback from the consumer, they are basically make improvement in the items of that company's product. So these are the short run and the long run demand. Just a minute, some participants are waiting in the lobby. So all of you understand till now, so that we can move further. Just write in the chat box. Okay. So moving to the next slide. So the next category of demand is price demand. So basically, the price demand means the amount of commodity a person is willing to purchase at a given price. So basically, as you know that if you want any item from the market, then there are many varieties, as well as there are many companies which are made that item. So based on the given price, suppose uh, you want a soap, from soap item from the company. So there are many options of soaps available in the market. So and you have a fixed amount to to purchase that item. Then according to that amount, you are going to survey in the market that which is the best soap available in the market, which comes under that amount. So basically, the price demand deals with it. So there is a negative relationship between the price and demand. So as the price increases, so the demand decreases, and as the price decreases, the demand increases. So as you know that this is the universal sentence that as the price increases of that item, then its demand decreases, and as the price decreases, then the demand of that item increases. So the price demand basically deals with the amount of money the consumer wants to pay for that particular product. So moving to the next slide. The next type of demand is income demand. So the demand refers to the willingness of an individual to buy a certain quantity at a given income level. So here they are dealing with the income level. So as you know that there are many income levels which was categorized by our government, that they are given and according to the income level they are given the medium class, then the poor class, then the higher class, and and some they are given some benefits to the lower income range group. So these are all depends on the income level. So there is a positive relationship between the income and demand. So as we can see, or we read in the previous slide, that there is a negative relationship between the price and demand, but here you can see there is a positive relationship between the income and demand. So as the income increases, the demand for the commodity also increases, and vice versa. Means as the income decreases, the demand also decreases. So basically, the income demand uh, relates with the positive relationship between the income and demand. So this is the definition of the income demand. So you must remember the price and the price demand and the income demand with these relationship, that the price demand deals with the negative relationship and the income demand deals with the positive relationship. So moving to the next slide. And the last type of demand is cross demand. So the demand for a commodity depends not on its own price, but on the price of other related products, is called as the cross demand. So an example is of cross demand is, with the increase in the price of coffee, the consumption of tea increases, since tea and coffee are substitutes to each other. So basically, the cross demand relates with the term that if the price of a particular item is increases, then the demand of the substitute item which is present in the market, it also increases. So here example is given that if the price of coffee increases, then the consumption of tea increases, because tea and coffee are just the substitute of each other. So such type of demand is called as the cross demand. So these are all we discussed the types of demand. So all of you understand it. Just write in the chat box so that we can move to the next topic. Okay. So moving to the next topic, all the video recordings of these lecture uh, are already shared to you of first unit on the college YouTube channel, and this video recording is also shared to you today after this class. So you can refer this video lecture. So the next topic is determinants of demand. So basically, the determinants of demand are factors that cause fluctuations in the economic demand for a product or a service. So basically, the determinants of demands are the factors that cause fluctuations. So basically, as you can see from the diagram, that a shift in the demand curve, as you can see in this diagram, that in the x-axis, all of you see this diagram clearly, or can I enlarge it in order to, so that you can see clearly? Just write in the chat box. Can I enlarge this diagram, or it is comfortable for you? Okay, I am enlarging it. Just a minute. So now you clearly see this diagram. So as you can see, the x-axis consists of quantity and the y-axis consists of price, as given to you. So and there are other components has been there, that the quantity has been abbreviated with capital Q, and price has been abbreviated with capital P. So as you can see from the diagram, that a shift in the demand curve occurs when the curve moves from D1 to D2. As you can see that D has been abbreviated for demand. So as you can see at point at price at point P1 and Q1, which denotes the price and quantity at particular instant. So demand is D1. You can see this line. This line is there. But as the demand, as the quantity and price has been increased from Q1 to Q2, and price has been increased from P1 to P2, the demand is also increases from D1 to D2, which is being shown by this line. So a shift in the demand curve occurs when the curve moves from D1 to D2, which can lead to change in the quantity demanded and the price. So it means that if the demand is increased from D1 to D2, then the quantity supplied and the price of that demand is also shifted from Q1 to Q2, and price has been shifted from P1 to P2 respectively. So from this diagram, it can clearly show. Because of this demand shift, we see an increase in the quantity demanded from Q1 to Q2, and increase in the price from P1 to P2. An increase or decrease in any of these factors affecting demand will result in a shift in the demand curve. So if any of these factors, like if like quantity, price and demand, has been increased or decreased, then it basically affects the other factors as well. So this is the graph which determines the factors uh, which contains the demand. So basically, it contains three factors which are interdependent on each other: the quantity, the price, and the demand. So moving to the next slide. So the determinants of demand. So basically, the determinants of demand consist of these factors. So the factors are these are the important factors which determines the demand. So first is the income of the individual consumer. Second is price of substitute goods. Then the taste and preferences. price expectations in the future from that product. Then the size and consumption of population, season and weather, distribution of income. So these are the major determinants of the demand. So let us discuss each of these determinants one by one. So moving to the next slide. So first is income of the individual. Uh, so as you can see clearly that income of the first determinant is income of the individual consumer. So here the definition is when there is an increase in the consumer's income, there will be an increase in the demand for the good, because the demand of a particular consumer basically depends on its income. So the income plays a major role in the demand of a particular consumer. So if the consumer incomes falls, there will be a fall in demand. So uh, our our graph which we studied in the previous slide basically uh, changes. So because if the consumer incomes falls, then there will be a fall in the demand as well. So the first determinant of demand is income of the individual consumer. So moving to the next slide. The second determinant of demand is price of substitute goods. So an increase in the price of substitute will affect the demand curve. So basically the substitutes are goods that can consumers buy in place of others, like how Coca-Cola and Pepsi are very close substitute to each other. So basically, it means that if the Coca-Cola price is increases, then the demand of Pepsi increases. So the just in the sense that if demand of that particular product or item increases, then so means that if the price of that particular product or item is increases, then the demand for its substitute increases as well. So if the price of one goes up, the demand for the other will rise. For example, if meditation classes become more expensive, then there would be an increase in the demand for yoga classes as well. So basically if the demand basically depends on the price. So that's why the determinant is price of substitute goods. It means that the example from this example here we show that if the meditation classes is more expensive, then the demand of yoga classes will be more. So all of you understand it till now? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Okay. So let's see the third determinant of demand. Then our third determinant is taste and preferences. So basically the taste and preferences of individuals also determine the demand made for certain goods and services. Um, so basically, as you know that when some years back there is banned on a product named as Maggie, then you know that Maggie has been much more Maggie covers almost like 70% of the market at that time. Then you know that when ban has been taken to the Maggie product, then the demand of substitute product has been increased. So basically the demand of that product or the demand of Maggie product at that time is basically depends on the taste and preferences of the consumer. So the factors like climate, fashion, advertisement, innovation, etc., affects the taste and preferences of the consumers. So the major determinant of demand is also the taste and preferences of the consumers as well. Now moving to the next slide, the price expectations in the future. So when there is an expectation of price change, so if people expect the price of a good to increase shortly, then they are more likely to purchase sooner, which would increase demand for the product. So as you know that some months ago, when the corona pandemic crisis has been more predominant in our country, like in the months of March and April. So as you know that there has been shortage of products of uh, like general products, general grocery products. So at that time, the people know that the price of that product has been increases because of the shortage of those products. So they are going to purchase many more products which they do not need at that time. So means the price if the price expectation is increases in the future, so the people try to buy that product in a sooner time, or much more earlier time. So for example, if people are expecting the price of a laptop to fall, then they will delay their purchase till the price low. So just read this slide. I will be back in a minute. So all of you understand till now? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Okay. So this is the fourth determinant of demand. Now moving to the next slide. The next determinant of demand is size and composition of population. Uh, so the market demand for a commodity increases with the increase in size and consumption of the total population. So it is obvious that if a particular item is consumed by by a large total of population, then that commodity demand will be more. So with the increase in total population size, there is an increase in the number of buyers, which ultimately increase the quantity demanded. So as you know that as far as our population of India is concerned, we are at number two in the whole world. So according to the demand of the population, we uh, need a large amount of the products or items which will be needed by our population. So basically, as you know that with the example is that with the increase in the male composition in the population, the demand for goods meant for male increases. And in the similar way, if there is an increase if there is an increase in the female composition of the population, then demand for goods meant for female also increases. So basically, the demand is dependent on the size and composition of the population. So only 5 minutes are remaining for today's class. So let's discuss the remaining determinants of demand. So moving to the next slide. Now the next determinant of demand is season and weather. So basically, the market demand for a certain commodity is also affected by the current weather conditions. For example, the demand for cold beverages increases during the summer season. As all of you are fond of ice creams, um, and cold drinks in the summer seasons, so the demand of the cold beverages obviously increases in the summer season. So basically the demand of that item is also dependent on the season and weather conditions. So moving to the next slide. And the last determinant is of demand is distribution of income. So basically, in the case of equal distribution of income in the economy, that the market demand for a commodity remains less. So consider a scenario if all of the individuals are getting the equal income, or then the market demand for the community is basically static, or there is less commodity demand in the market. But with the increase in the unequal distribution of income, so what actually this condition is basically in our country, the unequal distribution of income, the demand for certain goods increases, as most people will have the ability to buy certain goods and commodities, especially luxury goods. So basically, with the unequal distribution of income, the persons or the individual who have or who get those income are basically able to purchase the luxurious items only, and the lower income group does not uh, purchase those items which are luxurious. So basically, the important determinant of demand is basically also depend on the distribution of income in the society, or in the country. So that's all the determinants of demand. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box. So this is the last topic of today's class. So this concludes the determinants of demand topic. So we will discuss the next topics of demand in our next class. So that's it for today's class. Thank you very much. Now you can leave this meeting.